Foreign affairs and international politics were almost completely neglected back then by readers who bought the newspapers. Today, they are more than ever the most read pages right now. Melanie Francesca is with us. Melanie, good morning and welcome. Good morning.
Francesco, morning, Italy.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, Italy. So then, good morning, world. I tell you now, as you rightly understand, since you are international, let us have a little talk about the recent events together today as well. Naturally, among the various things that were said, following the recent meeting between Trump and the Chinese president, what exactly is going to be the future of Taiwan? We want.
Start from
There, Melanie, in that place.
And let's start from here, because there was a remark he made when he was returning from Xi Jinping on the plane, addressing the journalists. The last thing we need is a war, as you can see in this article here, at 9,500 miles away. Here, he basically says, I discussed it, yes, the war, I discussed it and everything, but now I have no intention. Practically, he abstains from anything. He even abstains from telling the journalist whether he intends to approve the other 14 billion in arms in a 25 billion arms deal that would be sold to Taiwan. 11 billion have already been approved. The remaining 14, at the request of China, are on standby. And why is that? Because Trump is interested in Taiwan. We have said for TSMC, that is Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, where all the extremely important microchips are indeed produced, both for artificial intelligence systems, which is essentially the future brain of the technocracy we are approaching, and for all mobile phones, weapons, and the entire system today as well. Therefore, given his strong interest in this company, he is taking it to Arizona by investing $65 billion in order to relocate this company from Taiwan to Arizona. He will bring it in 10 years, perhaps 15. Anyway, in the case of Trump, Taiwan is highly important to this microchip company indeed, and when he brings it to America, he will be able to say, Taiwan, bye-bye. That's why Korea and Japan anyway are trembling, because what sits at the center of his attention now are the good relations with China, which has become a gigantic client of his Boeings and of all his goods and other things. And as I have already said before, they are now in effect married. China and America are indeed married. They argue like husband and wife, but they are bound by incredibly deep interests.
So now, Taiwan, let's start out from there, and we should also talk about Korea and Japan. What position are they in at this moment, right now, as things stand?
They are afraid. They are afraid because, if America acts this way toward Taiwan and adopts a tepid, cautious stance and basically stops saying that it does not oppose Taiwan's independence, well, years ago, Nixon said that he had promised Taiwan that we would not have to ask China for permission to sell weapons. Now, however, it seems quite clear that Trump is contradicting this very point, and so they take it as a betrayal. Why does he have to ask China now if he can keep selling weapons? And this interference by China in all affairs makes the Allies tremble badly. It has shaken Europe as well. Europe trembles now. By now, the American empire is an overstretched empire that extends from Ukraine to the Strait of Malacca to Taiwan. It cannot go on any longer. It cannot go on any longer, especially since America is trying to concentrate its efforts on the Tech Night. What exactly is Tech Night? It is written here, for instance. Take a look, I will show you. National Security Strategy, which is basically the United States strategy, and also the Department of Defenses, which I'll show you here. There are 30 of them. A very long document that I haven't read in full, but only in part. And even in a very veiled way, and not so declaratively stated as I am saying now, it contemplates the existence of an entire North American state that includes Canada and Greenland as a sphere of influence, but also Central America, including Cuba and Venezuela. And so basically, we will have the vision with this national strategy of an American state that becomes truly a continent and everything under Washington's influence worldwide on a global scale. This gives us the idea. That's why Trump keeps talking about Greenland today, how we conquer it, Actually, to conquer means how the current colonial conquests take place with influence, commercial and also political, over these zones today in modern times.
So, during these days, we'll return briefly to Italy, Melanie, and we'll also resume the international view, what happened in Modena. You will have followed it too, naturally. An attack, a massacre. Indeed, that kind of crime does not even exist. It is called a massacre. Anyway, beyond the results, there are victims. They were not killed, fortunately, but it was a very grave incident and a matter of general concern everywhere around the world now. What exactly caused him to comment? Was it a terrorist attack carried out by an Islamist fundamentalist terrorist or by a madman? What is your view?
But borders sometimes mix and blur because the social misfit, the immigrant who comes here and cannot find land or a homeland, since Europe welcomes everyone, it seems, and as a matter of fact, suffers from what one might call a missionary syndrome, faithfully following the old teaching to open the door to all, and thus failing to notice that the ship carrying outsiders is sinking and that there is no longer any chance to stay afloat in this drift of moral obligation. And so we have a flood of maladjusted people, and the mental balance between the maladjusted who cannot find work, etc., and the future suicidal, homicidal, and massacre instigator is very unstable. This is also seen in America. There are a lot of maladjusted people, and this is also due to the politics of the left, even though today I say there is no longer left or right, but only high and low, rich and poor, and the rich on the right and left are the same, and the poor on the right and left are the same. Aside from this little digression of mine, I'm saying that the poor misfit, unfortunately, causes these situations. And I'll tell you more. The fear of terrorism in the United Arab Emirates is so high that the Emirates have decided to suspend all scholarships for Emirati students, because Emirati students all have the right to scholarships at European schools. Sorry, Emiratis, and no, here's the point. They have forbidden scholarships for all American universities, and that tells you a lot about the fact that the United Arab Emirates fear English terrorism, for example. Why? Do you know why? Do you know why, Francesco? Because in Emirati mosques there exists a taped recording prepared by the priest of these mosques that keeps repeating this very same tape over and over, and this tape is reportedly controlled by the government. There is a single, uniform, official sermon that is distributed to all the mosques. In Europe, by contrast, and indeed in much of the rest of the world, one simply improvises as a priest, you see, inside a mosque. There is no such structure as our own sacred Vatican. There is no hierarchical order whatsoever. It's very clear. And there isn't even a recorded tape. So who controls these people? Then, when the precarity of a person or of an immigrant group, whether Pakistani, Egyptian, or whatever you care to name, puts them in a peripheral area, in a ghetto, in difficult circumstances, it's hard to distinguish religion from politics.
Well, then, another point. We were just discussing this a moment ago, even together with Giorgio Bianchi, about the collapse of birth rates. It is being widely referred to as the white plague in our old European world, isn't that so? There are reasons that are more compelling than others, more than what we naturally understand, including, of course, the economic crisis, and also the fact that more and more we must keep looking forward, little by little, toward our future, toward our professional aim. Hey, Melanie, what is it, in fact, and what are the reasons for you, and what could this birth rate decline produce?
Besides that, if I were James Bond's villain, I would truly propose gender ideology to kill fertility. It has become clear that condoms weren't enough. They invented this rainbow thing because they were afraid of there being too many, and because all these political lobbies that want to control the world. But it's not a conspiracy theory. Those in power always end up with an ideology of order and perfection which cannot exist amid disorder and chaos of immigration. And then this is point A to begin with. Point B, for example, is that in the United Arab Emirates, there is no longer the term housewife, but there is the term for future cultural education. That is something like that, if you think about it. That is, mothers. Mothers are truly and openly regarded as goddesses. And I believe that this notion should return right into our Europe, because I simply do not understand why everyone has rights, but mothers have no rights. I am the social stratum, the people who shoulder 7 different jobs, because in the UAE you have cooks, drivers, and so on, while there is a very wealthy slice of society indeed. I am talking about the UAE, not Syria, and so on nowadays. To be a mother is truly a value. Therefore, if our politicians return to favoring mothers and not only minorities and, well, those who declare things I don't know, ideologies or sexual affiliations, etc., etc., then the family should come back to the center, and then we would also see the young people come back to believing in it, because right now they are frightened by these tired mothers who work 1,000 jobs and who have not even managed to raise their own children with love, saying, look, but they are.
They're also forced to take on 1,000 jobs, and this means,
Unfortunately, there isn't a policy to support mothers.
sure. Wherever there is, I believe, and in Europe, I don't know if I believe in France more than what happens in Italy. I don't know if there are models in Europe, perhaps in Northern Europe. In the countries?
From the far north, naturally, of course, in the northern countries, yes, indeed. There will also be the father who takes paternity leave. That is the concept of paternity, really. There are leaves that are much longer, and there are advantages too. Why not, for example, in the United Arab Emirates, who holds the Emirati passport, 6 to 7% actually don't get it. It's not like here in Europe, where after a few years you can get the passport. There are expatriates there, namely those who will never have a homeland. There are no immigrants. This means the expatriates will never be able to obtain a passport, and this means they will never have the rights of Emiratis, that their male children receive a no-cost apartment to start a family. So the government already pays him money. I say, I'll give you this flat, start a family. They are already ahead, and they have all the jobs lined up. If there were some protection for Italians without favoring all this immigration, I believe Italians, the young, feeling less precarious, could begin thinking about the future and not say, what job will I do here? And carpe diem lives, is that not so here?
The White Plague is defined in this very clear way, this sharp decline in birth rates. Indeed, thanks to Melanie Francesca. See you next week soon.
Farewell all, Italy, I love you.
Day yet.
You have a good day. I'm Italian too.
Oh, but yes, and yes.
Listen, one of my nationalities is Italian, yes.
Then you tell us all the others, then.
Oh, yes.
Okay. You'll tell us about it later. Thanks, Melanie. Great job, eh? Attention, we're connecting with Occhiali on site.